Hey, what's up? Welcome to the Sexual CBD Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Damas, which means Dr. Sex CBD. No. So tonight we are talking about sex and CBD. We have some, I'm glad you guys joined us. So it's going to be a quick talk, and what we're really going to discuss is some of the different ways that we can incorporate CBD specifically into our sexual life to help augment our sexual experience, to decrease some of the negative parts of that sexual experience, and to overall help our health and wellness, because sexual activity and sexual wellness is very important. It's actually a big part of our personal wellness routine, right? Unfortunately, we live in a society that at times can make sexuality a different kind of conversation, one that involves some difficulty in expressing ourselves and being open and honest about our needs and the things that make us happy. And we like to be happy. It's the easiest thing to do. It's the first thing that we, kind of figure out that we can do for ourselves. As like young kids, you start masturbating, right? It's like, whoa, I can give myself this kind of pleasure, right? And then eventually somebody's like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. That get your hands off of yourself. And therein oftentimes starts this kind of complex relationship between us and our sexuality. Now, traditionally, when we think about sex and drugs, it's kind of like a bad thing. So I want to tell you that we're not really talking about sex and drugs. As a matter of fact, we're talking about CBD and cannabis, which really is, misclassified as a drug. THC is often associated with feelings of pleasure. So THC is like the star of the cannabis world because it makes you high. People already feel good because it gives you that immediate kind of like activity in your brain that you're like, hey man, I'm high, I'm happy. The serotonin is in there, the dopamine is in there, right? And you're like, I'm great. So the interesting thing about THC is that for a lot of people, THC is not an aphrodisiac. Sometimes people consume THC and like, I just want to go to sleep. Right. I don't want to have sex. I don't want to do anything. I'm here to chill. My mind's not in that space, right? So even using the THC, which it can at times make you have pleasure-seeking behavior, right? Which is like, we'll refer to that as hedonistic behavior, right? That's why you get the munchies. That's why you laugh at a lot of stuff, right? But it's short in action, and you actually do not know, if this is going to happen. So CBD doesn't quite do that. In terms of having that immediate action on those pleasure receptors or things in that manner. So it can work, it's kind of like more nuanced than what it does. So let's break it down a little bit in terms of how we can get that and how we can use the CBD, right? So one of the things that we know about CBD is it has very great anxiolytic properties. That means it relaxes you. It makes you chill out completely, right? And so, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a complex relationship with sexuality many times, right? So it could be as, body image, self-image, religious, societal, a whole bunch of things are going on. It's difficult to even consider having sex as part of like your routine. It's something that you gotta work yourself up to or make some sort of special preparation. Less likely spontaneous, but it's something that's gotta, you're like, hey, on Thursday night, if I get out of work on time, and then I get all this stuff done, but before we get enough time at the end of the night, we can do this. Right? So there's a lot of pressure involved in that. Again, if you consume THC prior to that, it may or may not, you're dealing yourself with a wild card. It may or may not work for you. At that point, you may consume THC and say, I'm really not, I wanted to do this, but right now the thing that would make me feel happiest is to eat a big bowl of ice cream and cookies and watch something, and there's no sex going on tonight. And if there's a partner there, that complicates the situation. So one of the things that CBD can do for you is put you in that receptive mode for what you're about to do without having any potential for putting you down, right? Unless you take too high of a dose. There's always a potential for that, right? So what happens if you are having sexual anxiety, right? So here's some things. For men, number one thing, failure to launch, right? So as you get older, that becomes more of an issue for men because of some physiological things. But it also happens because of psychological things as well, right? The pressure to perform, the ability to let go of some of your life's worries, right? So for men, CBD can be a very good addition to your sexual routine because it can decrease your activity, your anxiety, as you think of this concept that you're about to have sex. It might be your first time, long time, or something that you do all the time. You want to have a good performance, all these other things. You're worried about the bills. You're like, last time I wasn't able to get it up. And if anybody's ever had that issue, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like the first time that happens, you're like, oh, is it broken? Now there's the pressure the next time, right? So, that's the thing that can happen to men. It is, and then that's regardless of the age. So it can take a lot of that anxiety. On women, we know, these kind of things we can be a little bit more complex with because they're physiological things and they're psychological things, and you're the receptive partner most of the time, right? In the relationship, in a heterosexual relationship, you're the receptive partner. So that means that if you're not ready for sex, it can be penetrative sex, right? So we're going to start with penetrative sex, vaginally, orally, anally. If you're not ready for that, it's going to be difficult for you to accommodate, to accept what's happening, right? So there's a word called vaginismus. Have you guys ever heard of that? No? Anybody know it? I'm not going to we got a ringer. We got Dr. Warnhouse. He's a ringer, so he cannot answer any questions, right? In case we're giving out door prizes, there's a ringer, right? So what happens with vaginismus is, for some unexplained reason, at the time of copulation, the woman's vagina shuts down, squeezes, spasms, and no getting in here, no whatsoever. She could even say, like, I think I wanted to do this, like I was into this, but I don't know what can happen. It will spasm, shut down, right? So in order to have sex, you have to find a way to get through that, or else it will be really, really painful. So that actually doesn't have a direct source or cause that scientists or doctors have discovered. But most think that it's involved with the mind, exactly, right? Especially women who've had some sort of sexual trauma in their lives, or have some sort of event that has left them in a post-traumatic state. So the CBD can actually mentally help you relax in terms of engaging in this activity that you want to engage in, but your body keeps rejecting every single time that's about to happen. That makes life difficult. And again, this is something that you're doing that makes you feel good naturally, right? And you can't do it. So that's issue number one with that, right? Now, besides the vaginismus, there can be other reasons for sexual dysfunction, which is called, and I hate pronouncing this word, but I'm gonna flex my muscles, right? Dyspareunia. Did I get it right, Josh? Dyspareunia? Dyspareunia. There we go. So what that means is that's a painful sex. That's what that means, right? And so that can be as a result of a number of things, right? It could be, for example, lack of lubrication, right? So you're not providing enough lubrication for it to happen. Dyspareunia can happen, again, because of physiological things, maybe disease processes and those type of things. So how can CBD help with that? Well, lubricants, right? So that's one of the number one things, right? That we can do to make sex more pleasurable. The wetter it is, the better it is, right? So lubricants are very, 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 very useful. Now, you can get CBD lubricants, you can get THC lubricants. The THC lubricants can have a different effect on you than the CBD lubricants, right? Because if you are the receptive person in the situation, anything that enters the fleshy parts of your body, like your mouth, your vagina, or your rectum, some of it is going to get absorbed into your bloodstream. So if you're using a THC lubricant, there is a potential that some point during this, you're going to be like, I'm high, holy up, what's going on here? I'm super high. And if you're not ready for that experience, right, that can be off-putting. Like, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't think this was going to happen right now. So that can be something that's unwanted. It could also be a great thing, like, hey, I'm high, this is the best sex I ever had, right? The CBD lubricant does something different. It is an anti-spasmodic, so it works in your groin area. There's a large concentration of what are called cannabinoid receptors, You might see heard of them as CB1 or CB2 receptors, right? We have them all over our body, but there's certain areas that you have large concentrations of them. Your brain being one of them, like your cardiac muscle being one of them, and then in the groin, there's a lot of these things there. And what some of the research has shown is that when you administer cannabinoids, right, they tend to stay there more as opposed to go throughout the body. So if you get the cannabinoids in that area, and again we're talking about women here, we're going to get to the men, but if the cannabinoids are in that area, either the vagina or the rectum, they tend to have their effect on those receptors in the area. What's so special about those receptors in the area? A, they control spasms. So they cause the muscles to relax. If you're having a problem with receptive sex and you start spazzing, right, it allows you to relax and accommodate that, right? The second thing that it does is that there are some pleasure receptors there. It actually works there. So these cannabinoid receptors are all throughout our body, and regardless of where you get it, there are going to be different reactions. So there actually are pleasure receptors right there that those things hit mildly. So the THC is a stronger, activator at those, but the CBD also does it. So, instead of being overwhelmed by the sensation, it's a nice, more mellow sensation, right? So that's a great thing about that. The third thing that it can do is obviously provide more lubrication for the activity, both externally and self-produced. Because once you start having the sex and it's not painful and it's more enjoyable, then it begets more pleasure, right? So if you're having sex, you provide more of your own lubrication. So it's a great thing. Now, for dudes, right, unfortunately, you're not gonna get that much pleasure out of it, right? But this is what it can do, right? So guys do have sexual dysfunction issues. We know that, right? And there could be a number of reasons for that. It could be physiological, it could be psychological, right? They can have painful sex too. Some men have painful erections. I'm gonna put him on the spot. He's already started, he already, no, he's squirming, right? So there's a disease called Peyronie's disease. Peyronie's disease. And what that happens with men, what happens is that the penis has an unnatural or unusual curvature to it. And it gets fixed in that position and plaques develop. So when they get an erection, it's super painful. Usually that happens, well, not usually, sometimes it happens as a penile trauma. So again, this traumatic sexual experience, something happened to the penis and now you have this trauma, you heal this way, it's painful. So for men who have painful erections, obviously the idea of having sex is not enjoyable, right? So this can actually, the CBD can actually decrease the painful sensations, allowing for a less painful erection, right? The other thing is post-sexually, after sex, right? After sex, there can be like the day after, girl, why are you walking like that? Girl, let me tell you, it's last night, I'm super sore, all right? So there's a post-coital discomfort. It's very good in that. As a matter of fact, that's one of the top reasons people avoid having sex, is knowing that afterwards there's going to be this really unpleasant thing, that's going to stay with you much longer than the short amount of pleasure that you had. Like, dang, I did this stuff for half an hour, and now for 2 days, this thing is killing me, right? And it can become a reason why people are averse to sex. So post-sex, especially for the receptive partner, whether vaginally or anal, there is trauma because there's this constant friction, right? And that's actually one of the ways this stuff gets into your bloodstream even quicker, is because you have those micro abrasions. That's what the trauma is from. So the CBD actually allows you, A, to decrease the pain sensation, and B, not D, the D is what caused the pain sensation. B is to decrease the inflammation. It's a very good anti-inflammatory, localized anti-inflammatory. So here you go, you've had sex, you guys had fun, and the next you're like, shit, tomorrow this thing's gonna be killing me, right? and then the next day you can actually feel better about it, and you can do it again, right? So you have more frequent sex. Now, real important, pain is very important, right? Because it's a sign something's like wrong, right? A little bit of it is kind of fun because it's like you're pushing the boundaries. Everybody likes a little danger, a little spice in their life, right? You know, it's like, hey, don't touch that. And you're like, oh, let me see. What's that about, right? A little pain, most people find that, you know, okay. Large amounts of pain is not good. So you should never use cannabis or CBD products to mask pain or to engage in activity that you really find difficult to participate in, right? That's not a good thing because you're forcing yourself beyond your limits and you're using the plant in a way that it's not designed for in that manner, right? So the pain should be something that you find pleasurable, really, right? And maybe like if you like a little bit, you should tolerate it a little bit, right? But it should not be something that you're like, man, hold on a second. Let me think some more. I gotta think some more on this CBD. This shit is killing me. You know, I can't take it anymore. That's not good. You should never do it that way, right? So, let's recap a couple of things. A, sexual dysfunction. Both men and women can suffer from sexual dysfunction. It could be physiologically, right? There could be some sort of biological thing going on. You know, it could be menopause. It could be, you know, atherosclerotic disease, heart disease, which decreases blood flow to the penis. You know, it could be something like that. Or it could be psychological, anxiety, depression, those type of things, right? CBD is great for that long-term use because it helps with depression, it helps with anxiety, it doesn't alter your consciousness, right? You don't have some of the negative things that can come on with full THC use. It provides you that balance. But doesn't give you that I'm really super high thing, I'm so happy right now that THC does. So it keeps you at like, not like, oh, you know, my world is being rocked. It'll keep you at like, hey, this isn't pleasant here. What's going on here? What you getting into, right? So it can give you that. That's A, right? B, it can help you with some of the mechanical things, especially if you're receptive vaginally or anal for sex, right? It can be an anti-spasmodic, so it can allow the muscles to relax and accommodate, right? It's an anti-inflammatory, so post-coital pain, right? Both men and women can have that based upon physiological processes, right? And it also concentrates in the area, the perineum, there's a lot of these pleasurable nerve receptors and these cannabinoids. So altogether, we have a product that does a lot of things without the potential for some of the side effects. You know, again, being too high, that's an uncomfortable thing, right? So now let's talk about some of the lubricant options. So basic lube 101, you have two options of lubes. You have oil-based and water-based. Cannabis products are oil-based products, right? So they extract the cannabis oil from the plants. So from the hemp plant, we extract the CBD, and it's an oil. So most of your lubricants that you're gonna get on the market are oil-based. What's important to know about oil-based lubricants? Something that you shouldn't do with them. Condoms, right? So oil-based lubricants should not be used with condoms, latex condoms, because they break them down. So for safe sex, for your peace of mind, right? You want to have fun. You're like, hey, let's put the CBD lube on, right? But you weren't planning on having a baby and a condom breaking, right? Or catching the heebie-jeebies. Like, nobody likes the heebie-jeebies at all, right? So we want to lead you. You're a fan of the heebies?
No.
Oh, okay. How about the jeebies?
No.
Both of them.
They're out of here.
All right, so no one wants to catch the heebie-jeebies. So oil-based lubricants shouldn't be used with condoms and some of your toys. So the rose is a big thing nowadays. You know, you don't know about the rose? I drove by, there was a billboard. You guys don't know about the rose? I'm a freak then. I'm a dude. I know about the rose.
Do you know about the rose?
Oh, so the rose.
Something new?
Yeah, so the rose. Listen, I don't want to give the rose no free, but what I've heard, I don't have the machinery to like enjoy the rose, right? So it is it's a sex toy, and it's a rose vibrator dildo combination thing, and it does all things, you know, under God green earth. It's supposed
Is she
to.
Googling your They show me your picture.
Yeah, they just see the
Because I want to
rose.
see a picture of this because a lot of roses have thorns.
No, right,
I
so
don't know about you,
this
but
one
I'm not into that.
supposedly is like, you know,
It's on Amazon.
Oh, that's interesting.
hey, Rose, I want to do a paid partnership with you guys.
Yeah, let's do it.
So sex toys, you have to make sure that the rubber or the latex material on the sex toys doesn't degrade from the oil.
Oh.
Right? So now everybody's looking at the rose. It's super freaky. This is crazy.
Does
Right?
it sing?
Oh, it'll make you say
Is
it.
that a tornado?
That is. So, so be careful with your toys and objects with the oil-based lubricants, right? You can get some CBD lubes that are water-based. You can get those, right? So those are safe. You can use them, right? But the drawback for water-based lubricants is that they don't last as long, right? And especially for cannabinoids, I mean, what you have to do to actually dissolve it into the liquid, you don't really have, people will say you have water-soluble CBD or cannabis. That's not really a thing. You have water immersible, so when you put it into the product, there's gonna be some of that fine texture in there, right? So if you have a water-based CBD lube, it's gonna have a different consistency than the oil-based. You know, it's not gonna be as slippery, and it's also not gonna last as long. So again, if you're using it for one of the conditions that, you know, are preventing you from thoroughly enjoying sex, the water-based ones may not be the best one for you, but if you need it for safe sex, you know, you need to use the water-based one. So you gotta weigh those things, you know, in terms of what your needs are and what you're trying to get. Cool? Does that make sense for everyone? So prior to sex, what you can do actually is ingest CBD orally or smoke it or tinctures, right? To get your mind right, relax, you're nice and easy. I don't have to think about work. I'm not thinking about work. I'm not thinking about the kid. I'm not thinking about all the other shit that's running through my mind that's going to prevent me from enjoying this as much as I want to enjoy this, right? So you can orally get your mind right, and then physically you can use the lubes both on guys and on women, right? To help the process actually be more productive and more fruitful for you in terms of what you're trying to get out of it. And then after sex, you can actually use lube or suppositories or the oil if you're a guy and you've been having rigorous sex. So I don't want you guys to think that guys can just go at it and it's like, man, you know, I don't feel anything. Remember, our skin is involved in this.